Carey Pena. Welcome to In the Moment, our weekly 20-minute talk show focused on living your best life in the now. I am here with my co-host, Gelie Akhenblit, who is the founder of Networking Phoenix, and Zenobia Mertel, who is a columnist, a life and style columnist with InspiredMedia360.com. And in the moment with us today, our guest co-host, Carey Conley.
Yay.
Love your name.
Thank you.
Name too.
Yes, isn't that something?
You are the co-creator of Infinite Nation. Yeah. And Carey is here today to talk to us about teaching people how to focus on their vision. Right. Huge topic that you speak and write about. But also, you have a really dramatic life story to share about how you got to where you are today. But all of it helps propel you forward, and in turn, you're helping to propel others forward.
Sure.
So I really am excited to talk to you more about this, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And love your shoes.
Thank you.
Very good
I
choice,
got the memo
Carey
on the shoe thing.
Very good. We're going to begin today with our hot topic. So this caught my attention on Inc., one of my favorites. It was titled Manterrupting, how Ruth Bader Ginsburg cut down on manterrupting at the Supreme Court. So this article says, a new research paper shows that even when women join the ranks of some of the most powerful people in the world, the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, they are still disproportionately interrupted by men. On average, they say women constituted 22% of the court, yet 52% of the interruptions were directed at them. So here's the key, and this is what I want to ask you ladies about. The researchers write that women's attempts to frame their questions often unwittingly give their male colleagues an opportunity to interrupt them. Women justices were more likely to begin a question with, "May I ask?" "Could I ask?" or "Excuse me," basically being more polite. So they surmise in conclusion that the researchers say it may be as simple as might be uncomfortable, but you have to start talking a little bit more like a man, is what they say. So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this. Carey?
Well, I don't know if it's so much they have to start thinking like a man. I think it's just, I wonder if I started thinking about this as an age thing. Because I started thinking, you know, most of the younger women that I know now I wouldn't say that they follow that rule, that they interrupt a lot in conversations. And I know that because I'm around them a lot. So I'm wondering, because my age group, we tend to use more politeness, especially the women. Don't know what that's about. But I'm wondering, I'm curious about the age thing.
I like politeness, though. But I think that the point that I took personally away from that is, does it interfere with sometimes directness?
Yeah.
So sometimes you couch a question like, is it all right if I ask this? What do you think, Elle?
Well, I can tell you I'm currently practicing this on my ex-husband. I am, yes, I did just say that. I am literally, I'm not even kidding, but I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I'm mirroring the way he converses with me, because I found that, you know, I do tend to come in, like you said, with the polite, you know, or maybe like leave room for questioning. And I'm like, you know what? Let me mirror a different style and see how this resonates. But it's something I have to process, because my question is, well, how do I think like a man? How do I talk like a man? Like, I don't know. It's not natural to me, right?
Maybe, more linear.
Maybe.
Right? I guess, is that perhaps something that we can take away from this?
We're learning. See, we're
I think
learning.
women are they're more worried about hurting people's feelings.
That's right. Yes, and that's definitely accurate. So Carey, let's talk a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today, because you're an entrepreneur and you're an all-in entrepreneur. So let's start there about how corporate America just wasn't for you, and you recognized that pretty early on.
Very early. You know, I graduated from college in the 80s. And in the 80s, that's what you did. You got a business degree, which I did. My husband and I both did. He went into the corporate world, did really well. I went into the corporate world and basically changed jobs about every 2 years, because it wasn't fitting the mold. And most entrepreneurs can tell you they can totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went into becoming an entrepreneur right about the time I was starting to have my children, so that I could work from home, raise them, and you know, work around their schedule.
And you ended up working with this company,
Arbonne, yes.
And you became kind of a big deal. Like, you hit six figures. And tell me a little bit about that part of it, and then what happened.
Yeah. Well, right before I found Arbonne, somebody gave me the idea that I should probably sit down and write out my vision, get really, really clear on what I wanted my life to look like. And it's a part of my story now. When I speak that I tell people I took an entire day off of work with a legal pad of paper, because this was 1980, whatever. No iPads, no cell phones. And I wrote out in detail what I wanted my life to look like, my relationships, working from home, where we lived, what kind of mom I wanted to be, and et cetera. So out of that, what I think happened, Carey, is that Arbonne showed up in my life because I got really clear that I wanted that lifestyle, and Arbonne was the vehicle that allowed me to do that.
As your story was articulated to me by Gelie, who had emailed me about having you on the show, I'm so glad you did. She sort of outlined that you had the series of rug pulled out from you moments. Yeah. So the first one is you're at Arbonne, you're making six figures, and then your team, your entire team, sort of left you because they didn't like your style.
Yeah. You know, it's a very humbling process when you're growing any kind of business of any model. And in that type of model, and Arbonne is a home-based business, my job was to train up other leaders. And so I had a very good vision that I was a great leader at that point. And what I soon found out was that I was a little bit too controlling and wanted to, you know, have it my way kind of thing. And these were really strong, independent women that wanted to do it for the same reasons I did, which was freedom and flexibility. And so in 1 month, they little by little all came to me and said, you know, this is just not working out. It's a very humbling experience when you have to look in the mirror. Well, you look in the mirror and you either blame, you know, it's all their fault, they didn't fit this anyway. But what I chose to do was look in the mirror and go, okay, I need to change. And that's what's hard for most people.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's so huge when you can take a circumstance that knocks you down and use it to build you back up even greater than before.
Sure.
Now, when folks come on our show, we do like to dig a little deeper, and you've been kind enough to share a little bit of your story. And you suffered a devastating loss of your husband. And if you would just talk to me about that and how you're doing.
Yeah. About 2.5 years ago, my husband committed suicide, and it was very, you know, like most people that suffer with this or have been through this, you know, you just don't see it coming. And so, and our family was extremely close, so it was out of the blue. My husband was the last person on earth that you would have thought would have done that. It was right at a point where my son had just graduated from college and had already accepted a job here in Arizona, and we live in Denver. So got through all of that, got my son here, got a 2-bedroom apartment here so that I could go back and forth between here and Denver because I still had a lot of clientele there. And my daughter was still in college in Oklahoma. So I, for 2 years, literally have been on a plane about every 2 weeks bouncing to 3 different states.
Emotionally, how did you get through that tragedy? And you have 2 beautiful children that you had to hold together as well.
You know, we have a lot of faith, Carey. That's the biggest thing about us, is that we believe that this is not eternity, that this is something we have to go through here. We have a lot of faith that something good always comes out of something like this. So we've chosen as a family to take that stand. And when you have kids, and you guys know, you don't have time to wallow in that. I didn't have any time to sit back and really think about it. I had a business to run. I just started Infinite Nation, my company, and my son had a new job. My daughter was in college, so there was, you do what you do.
So you moved to Phoenix to keep doing what you love.
Yeah.
And tell us about being in Phoenix and how you're helping people define their vision.
Actually, I will honestly tell you, I love Arizona so much. I don't go back to Denver as much anymore, which is great. I have found a foundation of people here that I'm working with. Most of them are solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. So my signature thing, like you said at the beginning, is vision. I have learned that I've been able to get through every single phase of my life once I got very clear on who I am and what I am supposed to do. And that's what I help people do.
What do you think, and I know it's not one size fits all, especially working with entrepreneurs,
Sure.
But what do you think is something that you know is that you always want to leave people with when you coach them and try to help them elevate their life and their self-esteem and their growth?
Yeah. Well, vision, again, is everything. If they have a very clear vision, they can pretty much get through everything. One of the top 10 things I say about why vision is victory, which is my tagline, is that it becomes the anchor in all the storms. Little and big. Most people have a really hard time in this world right now staying focused and consistent. It helps with that a lot. And then it also helps with things like what I've been through.
And yeah, that's what I was going to say, just in closing out of this segment. How has vision helped you? I mean, when you go through a tragedy like that, and boy, sometimes, and that's such a deep tragedy, but sometimes you feel in life like the hits just keep on coming.
Sure.
So for you personally, how did you sit down and say, I want to have a vision that we are going to walk through this and that my life will be back on track?
You know, to be honest with you, Carey, the vision was already there when this happened. So it didn't come after. And that's why I talk to people about having one that is so crystal clear like mine has been for so long, because you become so rooted in it that when the small things and the really big things happen, you don't have to sit down and create it.
Boy, I love your approach. And now we're going to thrive with Gelie, and this sort of ties into everything that Carey's been talking about, because your big signature event is coming up. And again, for folks who don't know Gelie, who doesn't know Gelie, she's the founder of Networking Phoenix, and so Carey's going to be doing a seminar at your big event. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, and I love bringing Carey in because, again, what she talks about, the vision and what you just heard, the folks that I work with, this is something that I push on them as well constantly. You have to know why you're doing this, because when life happens and you're going to get derailed, you need to go back to that vision and not let it derail you, right? So Carey's going to come in. She's going to talk a little bit about vision. We're not making vision boards, as I tell everyone, because that's not, again, Carey is not going to make a vision. I mean, she'll make a vision board with you over wine, but that's not
go way beyond that.
Yeah, that's not what we're going to be doing. But what I wanted to quickly talk about is just my signature event. But I really wanted to tell you the history of it, right? Which happened by accident. I almost feel like all amazing things in my life happened by accident. But so I had this networking company. This was right at the beginning. I wasn't even sure what I was doing with it. And one of my friends said to me, you should have a launch party, a networking event. And I'm like, I'm not having a networking event, okay? I promote events, I don't want to do it. She finally convinced me to do it, so I rented the space at Monte Lucia, like over by the pool. I asked my mom to do registration. I thought maybe 100 people would show up. I'd be lucky if 100 people show up, all right? Sent out 3 to 4 emails, invited some people on Facebook. As it came time to the event, I had over 600 people show up at once. It was a logistical nightmare.
The cops had to do
the Paradise Valley Police had to come out to direct traffic.
Yeah.
They ran out of parking. People were parking in the desert lot across the street. It was, I mean, literally, I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. So here I am. We're doing our 21st signature event on Monday, April 24th, right? So at the end of this month, it's from 6 to 9. For anybody that's interested, you can get all the information on networkingphoenix.com. It's absolutely free. We're expecting 1,300 people. I used to have over 2,000 people show up when the economy wasn't as good, because we had a lot more people that were unemployed. But the reason I'm sharing the story is because I like to tell people to always put yourself into the path of opportunity and just start doing.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of had to be pushed into even hosting this event, which ended up being a huge part of my company and a huge piece of what I do, and it's taken on an entity of its own. And sometimes, you know, we just get stuck in our heads and, you know, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I just start doing it and see what comes of it.
Boy, it looks like it's going to be a slam dunk with Carey and you. You're sharing vision and opportunity. I mean, these are all things that help. If nothing else, you can walk away from an event like that having made some connections that inspire you to move the ball forward. I love it.
Yeah, Gelie's events are amazing.
Yeah, and we'll put all of the information on our website as well, inspiredmedia360.com. Now, I want to share a story from my podcast, Carey Pena Reports. Every week, I sit down and I do an interview, an in-depth interview with someone who has a highly inspirational story to share. So most recently, I sat down with a young man who is a really big rising star in the country music world. His name is Austin Burke. He came to my studio with his dad, Sean, and Austin talked to me about how he's making it big in Nashville, but really more important than that, he talked about how he survived some really tough times. His dad financially had some really tough times, but Austin says that the family really stayed together, bonded together, and that he made it by turning to music. Take a listen.
Well, you know, it was tough to see my dad so down and my family so down, but I really found music in that moment, in that time, and I started writing songs that, you know, meant a lot to me, and that was sort of my way to let out how I felt.
So Austin just signed with the William Morris Agency, which is a huge agency.
yeah.
He's a very big deal, yet he remains
Wow.
humble, loved by his family, has his priorities so in check. One of the things, guys, that he touched on in that interview, though, was that he went through a significant amount of bullying during the time that his family was having a rough patch. And he talked about how he dealt with that and how he really had to dig deep, and that music helped him so much. So he's been able to manifest these beautiful lyrics and this great musical career out of hard times.
Wow.
That's vision.
Yes, it is.
That's vision.
It's being aligned with
And
your
you know, we've been talking a little bit about bullying, because I just cannot underscore how strongly I feel about that subject, the stand up for, against bullying. And so lifestyle coach Luke Kayyem, who we love, he's one of our contributors, he picked up on this, and that's what he wanted to talk about today. Take a look.
Thanks, Carey. I'm super excited to be back this week, as I was truly inspired by your podcast a few weeks back with John Jay about bullying. And it made me go back to my very first day of school growing up in Hawaii in the 4th grade. I looked at a guy just a little bit too long as I was getting off the bus. So he decided to get off at my stop and punch me square in the face. I learned 2 things at that exact moment. One was that I needed to know how to run really, really fast and get away from the situation. And 2 was I needed to learn how to defend myself. And I don't just mean physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually against some of the challenging things this world will throw at us. Now, having kids of my own, I decided to join a local gym called Fight Ready with my daughter Camille, so that not only she knows how to protect herself in any kind of physical environment, but that she also understands the importance of mental strength and knowing how to get out of any situation. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Anthony, and if anyone tried to bully me, I wouldn't exactly go straight to fighting, but if it ever had to happen, I totally would.
Hi, I'm Naya, and if I was bullied, I would probably try to stand up to them, and if they don't back down, I would probably use the skills I know now against them. Hi, I'm Graham. If anybody tried to bully me, I would run and tell the teacher.
All right, so after listening to all these kids, I decided to come up with 3 ways that you can defend yourself against a bully. Number 1, make some noise. Get loud, get obnoxious. Bring as much attention to the situation as possible, with hopes that this kid or this person is like, I'm not getting near that guy, he's a weirdo. Number 2, tell as many people as possible. Friends, teachers, parents, let them know about it. And the more comfortable you become with talking and telling, the more comfortable you'll be in handling the situation. And number 3, the most important one, is don't take it personal. Understand that this bully's job is to bully you. They're not picking on you in particularly because it's you. They're picking on you because that's what they're supposed to do. And if you take it lightly and you understand, hey, look, this guy's just being a big, dumb, hairy, ugly bully, then you won't take it personally, which won't affect you down later on in your life. Luke Kayyem, Master Lifestyle Coach. Be unbullyable.
Luke, thank you so much. Really important topic, and we will continue to bring you those sorts of messages. And hopefully, guys, when you see this show, these are things that you can also share with your kids, because a lot of people out there, a lot of kids need to hear these messages. A lot of kids are suffering in school, and I really don't think enough attention is paid to that in general. Now it's time to vibe. We're going to talk about soccer, Zenobia. So this is one of our new favorite subjects. Phoenix Rising. Take it away, Z.
Oh, it was such a great event. So I went to the most recent Phoenix Rising game, and if you don't know where the stadium is, it's a temporary stadium because they are in play for becoming a Major League Soccer team,
Which is so huge.
so big. It will change so much. In Phoenix, it will be such a boon, and the game was insane. There was so much celebration around it. The feel of the suites is where I was. They want it to be like the Phoenix Open. They want it to be a party. They want connections to be made. There were so many youth fans there, and kids play soccer. It's just a no-brainer to see all these different demographics mesh together. It was a great time.
Did it have an international feel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, they just recently signed Omar Bravo.
Yes.
And so he stayed after and signed autographs with the kids, which is, you know, it's such a get down to the youth and watch this blow up. And so we're very excited, and the decision should come, you know, it's going to trickle down this year through
About
the
the
next couple
MLS,
years.
yes.
About MLS, and they won the game.
Yeah,
It was
which
so
is
fun to see
big.
that. Everybody was just enjoying just the food, the vibe, all of it. I can't highly recommend it enough.
Yeah, so they have a lot of games upcoming. You can find their schedule. We'll put the information again on our website. And by the way, guys, if you're a soccer fan and you want to know more about this process of them trying to obtain an MLS, which outside of soccer, it's huge for Phoenix. I mean, this just will be a very big deal. I recently moderated a town hall with the Phoenix Rising owners, with the coach, Frank Yallop, and with a bunch of the players, and they are such cool guys. Not only are they talented, but they're very nice and very appreciative of the fans. And that is posted on inspiredmedia360.com if you go to our community section. It's a really interesting town hall, kind of delves a little bit deeper. Now it's time for our segment, Lunch with Mom. Carey, every week we do a restaurant review with David Lux. You gotta love a guy who goes to lunch every week with his mom.
Sure.
Right? Because your son is how old now?
He's 25.
Do you still get that kind of quality time with him?
Yes, I do.
All right, you make sure of it, right?
No, he's good at it.
He's good. I
Yes.
love it. So David Lux goes out to lunch with Mama Lux, and he brings us this review every week. He says, quote, "This is a special First Friday edition of Out with Mom, and we hadn't been in months, so Mama Lux and I headed to Roosevelt Row for First Friday this weekend. I had eaten at the new dressing room a couple weeks ago and knew that she would love the charm of their back patio. I got the Row Burger, named after the street we were on, and my mother got the all-day burrito." That sounds pretty good, actually.
Really good, yeah.
The menu offers what the owners call elevated shack food on their Kickstarter campaign. The restaurant is so named because it used to be the dressing room for a drag bar, long since closed. It's right next door to Mon Orchid. That place is super cool, by the way. And he says that they stopped by to check out the latest exhibits before poking their heads into the Nash. David goes on to say, "My grandmother was a jazz pianist, and she would have loved that place. Roosevelt Row has changed a lot in the last 18 months, but there is still a great, vibrant feel down there." And then he ended by hashtagging Yes Phoenix. So it is so much fun. Do you guys get to spend a lot of time down in Roosevelt Row?
Well, I've only been here for 2 years, so I'm now anxious to go there.
Yeah.
Yes, that is one of the
Put it on
things
your
I
list.
love about Arizona is so many cool places to eat.
So many great places.
Yes.
The Mon Orchid does a great job of bringing community together, all the fun foodie places down there. Got to take her out there for some wine.
Yes.
We'll do that.
Yes.
And finally, today we want to end with our Do Good segment. And Z, I'll pitch back over to you for this because you attended the fashion show to raise money for a great organization called Courtney's Place.
Yes. Now, I don't know if Courtney's Place is making such strides in the Valley. It's such a great nonprofit, which basically helps challenged physically and mentally kids that get the support through high school transition into adulthood, because at that point, there's really not that much support.
Right.
So it began with the mom who had the daughter named Courtney, and she decided to create Courtney's Place, which is a place for challenged kids to go. And it helps them continue the therapy, continue progressing and growing. And so it was a fashion show. And prior to that, they had a bunch of shopping, which was, of course, key. And much of the proceeds went back to the organization. But the fashion show was so inspirational because, of course, they had, great models come out. And then they had the participants for Courtney's Place come out with their loved ones and the people that really have helped them through.
I love
and
that picture.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
of them on the
adorable. They
runway.
walked through and it was a standing ovation. It was such a great day.
And you know what I think is
organization.
so amazing about that is just that one moment where that child and their parents feel so loved.
Exactly.
And that the spotlight is shining on them. So great job to Courtney's Place and to all who took part in that fashion show. As we close things out, Carey, see, I'm nicknaming you now. I'm calling you Care.
We're going to have to come up with new names for each other. Yes.
Just leave the audience with a few final inspirational words. And thank you so much, by the way, for sharing your personal story. I know it's not easy, but boy, you are a strong woman. So if you would just leave with them with some great advice.
I think right now more than ever people feel very overwhelmed, have a serious focus problem going on because we're so overwhelmed with so much stimulus and so many great things that we can do. And it becomes almost paralyzing. And what I do when I help people get really clear on their own vision is allow them to start saying no to the things that they should not be doing that don't line up with where they want to go. And so I really encourage people, if nothing else, to get really clear on that so that they can free up some space in their life. because they're just so overwhelmed.
Yeah, and you need to be able to have that free space to be able to breathe.
Yes.
And enjoy.
And enjoy.
Yeah.
And be creative, I think,
Yes.
too.
Thank you so much for being here. Really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. And thanks to all of you for watching and taking part in our show. Once again, we come to you every week on Wednesday. In the Moment, our focus is to motivate, inspire, and hopefully move you to action. And you can always find us online at inspiredmedia360.com. All of our content and shows. You can see Z's column, Z Life, right there on our homepage. That's going to do it for us, guys. And we hope you go out there and live in the moment. Take care.